This is the OTB Television Network, a service of Capital District Off-Track Betting.
Good morning and welcome to Racing Across America for this Thursday morning. I'm Seth Merrill. Thanks for tuning back in. After a couple of days, took a little bit of a break here at Capital OTB, as did Racing Across the Country. There was supposed to be a modest amount of racing on Christmas Eve. Parks was scheduled to be the only track going, and Parks canceled once again. Parks having a tough time of it. That was their 10th cancellation, 10th straight cancellation. So we'll keep our fingers crossed that the weather can hold up and Parks can kind of get their track back into racing condition and get back and start racing there, because it has been a tough road to hoe for Parks. But all of that led to a couple of days off for everyone, both the folks here and all of you folks as far as betting. So we'll see if we can get back in and get back into the groove on this Thursday. Notable, of course, for today, not only are we returning after a couple of days off from Racing Across the Country, but it's opening day at Santa Anita, and they have a nice stakes card there with the La Brea, the Sir Beaufort, and the Malibu. We'll talk a little bit about that, certainly, as the show progresses. On today's show, Thursday means a regular visit from John DeSilva, racingwithbruno.com. We'll touch on Aqueduct today. We'll look out at their stakes race on Saturday, the Alex Robb. We'll also get some of John's thoughts, perhaps, on the Malibu as well. Dave Rodman, a little after the bottom of the hour from Laurel. We'll get some thoughts on Laurel for this afternoon. Also, they have a couple of nice stakes races out there as well. I think it is the Willa on the Move. It is. It's the Willa on the Move. And then the Maryland Juvenile Championship. So a couple of nice stakes races, including a nice 2-year-old stakes race on Saturday at Laurel. We'll talk about that with Dave coming up. From the past couple of days, again, we haven't been on the air, so just notable news over the past couple. I do want to bring up, I have Equidaily on here, and you can actually see the tweet here. Richard Eng, our buddy from the Las Vegas Journal-Review, the horse racing writer out there, had a nice tweet the other day. It's kind of funny. Richard Eng writes in his tweet from about a week ago, December 20th. I had a strange dream that all Florida racetracks were racing at the same time. Of course, that would be dumb in real life, which made me laugh because it's funny because it's true, kind of a thing. A very strange situation down there in Florida. Hialeah, Gulfstream, Calder, all racing at the same time. Tampa on the other side of the state. You know, the Tampa situation being hours across the state, not so notable. But right down there in the Miami area, all those tracks running at the same time, really a tough situation. And subsequently, Calder has canceled their big stakes race coming up this week, which I think is clearly attributable to that situation. So we'll have to see how that shakes out over the next year, because it certainly can't keep going the way it is now. Other sad news, of course, we've talked about it. We've been talking about it for the past couple of weeks, the closing of Hollywood Park this past Sunday. Just did want to note our friend Jeff Scott, the racing writer in the Saratogian, nice column on Monday. Hollywood Park, the closing is the racing story of the year. And he says, one thing that everybody should be able to agree, that the death of Hollywood Park is the biggest racing story of 2013. Jeff says, other tracks have disappeared in recent decades, but this one is different because if a beautiful, storied place like Hollywood Park can be lost, no track is truly safe. And I think he makes a great point there, and it probably is the story of the year. Jeff goes on to say there are plenty of explanations for Hollywood's demise: indifferent management, an indifferent state government, an ever-dwindling customer base, and in the end, it came down to the fact that the land on which the track sits is worth far more as a development site. So it's just, economic realities took over. As I said earlier on the Handicappers Report, I think the track could have been saved if the right entities had come together and perhaps the state government had played a little role in it and pushed for that to happen. And boy, 5 years down the road, I think folks will look at whatever development goes in there and just regret that they lost this green space and this nice track there in the city. But we'll see how it shakes out. It is the reality. I've said it a couple of times now since then here on either the Handicappers Report or Racing Across America. We had John White on Loose on the Lead on Sunday, who's out there in Southern California, the paddock commentator, the morning line odds maker at Santa Anita. And he made the point that he thought maybe some positives could come out of this, including getting Los Alamitos in the mix. They're going to expand their track, and they're in a location that might prove beneficial, get to a new and different and potentially exciting fan base. We'll see. We'll see how things shake out in Southern California. It's certainly going to be very, very different. But again, the Jeff Scott column, you can look that up. I have it linked on Equidaily, but you can also find it at the Saratogian website, and talks about Hollywood Park, the closure being the racing story of the year. And I can't say I disagree with that. Excuse me. Still fighting this, just the last inch of this cold. If anybody has a cure for that last inch of a cold, you can email viewer mail at otb.com. Let me know. Mentioned this earlier on the Handicappers Report. Good column by Jay Hovde in the Daily Racing Forum. Good column, interesting column. Let me put it that way. In that he talks about the last day at Hollywood Park, and it's disappointing to read Hovde's column because he talks about the management at Hollywood just did not seem concerned, did not seem prepared, did not seem ready to. He says the lame duck track management was neither ready nor willing to properly serve such a crowd, which was the crowd that showed up on closing day. According to the Hovde article, programs ran out after the fourth race, and I said earlier on the Handicappers Report, clearly this is a day when folks are going to want to come and not just buy a program for the racing day. I'm sure there were souvenir programs being sold. Souvenir, not literally, but I'm sure people walked in and bought programs to file away, closing day at Hollywood Park. And you have to have the forethought as management to see that happening. So that played into it. Hovde also says they ran out of food at the concession stands and whatnot. So it was kind of disappointing. And as I said earlier on the Handicappers Report, and we talked about it on Monday a little bit, it was a little bit disappointing that they didn't go out a little bit bigger. Anthony Mormino said he watched a lot of the card, watched a lot of the simulcast signal, and between the races, they were doing some memories of the racetrack and showing some of the memorable races and whatnot. And they did some special things. Vic Stoffer's call of the last race was a little bit special. But still, as the Hovde column suggests, and as other people have said, the stakes races on the last day to me were a little bit disappointing, but as the column says, they just did not do anything special. It seems like they could have, at the end of the day, maybe have a little concert there for people who might want to linger. They could have done something special. Not only didn't they do anything special, but according to the Hovde column, they weren't even ready for the crowd that showed up and didn't treat them the way they should be treated. But so that's a disappointment added on to Hollywood Park going out. The Hovde column, again, most recently, you can find that in the Daily Racing Forum, have it linked over on Equidaily. Did want to note, one of the columns I read, and I only saw it in one place, a Southern California column written about closing day at Hollywood Park, and I have a lot of links to the coverage of the final day over on Equidaily. But one of them said, Dick Van Patten, the actor, who, of course, if you follow horse racing, you're probably familiar with Dick Van Patten being a very avid fan of horse racing. In his 80s now, in his mid-80s, I think. But of course, you remember Dick Van Patten from various movies. He had the television, 8 is Enough. He had that television show. But he was part owner of one of the winners on closing day at Hollywood Park. Dick Van Patten was at the track and was in the winner's circle closing day with the winner. And I found that interesting. Again, one of the articles mentioned that. Bad news, we talked about this a little bit earlier on the Handicappers Report. Summer Bird, who was the winner of the Belmont Stakes in 2009, also the Eclipse winner that year for a 3-year-old championship, died on Tuesday in Japan of colic. Certainly some disappointing news there. That was announced by the Twitter feed of the farm where Summer Bird was standing for his stud career. So Summer Bird, 2009 3-year-old champion, has passed away in Japan. Little Tampa Bay Downs article in the Racing Forum that I found interesting. We've talked a little bit about this guy prior. This is a trainer who I think has been interesting to watch over the past 2 or 3 years, whatever, since he's been out there on his own training. Trainer Dane Kobiski and jockey Eric Rodriguez down in Tampa now. They were mainstays on the Maryland circuit, but they've decided to ply their trade in Florida for the winter. Although Kobiski, I think, it may still have some horses up in Maryland over the winter. Kobiski, 39-year-old former jockey, been training since 2008. And last couple of years, he's been interesting to watch for me. So he's going to be fun to watch down in Tampa this winter. He's a new face down there, as is Rodriguez. So we'll keep our eyes on both of those guys. It is noted in the article, though, and if you've watched Tampa at all, Fernando de la Cruz and Ronnie Allen seem to be red hot at the meet, particularly de la Cruz. So we'll keep our eyes on them. But bottom of the article also notes Dan Centino has gotten his first win since returning to Tampa. Did that on Sunday, and he just returned over the weekend. Centino also coming down from Maryland. He's first indicated he would stick in Maryland for the winter. That's where he's been riding most recently. And I said on the Handicappers Report one day when that news first came out that he was going to stick in Maryland. He had done so well over the years down at Tampa in the winter. How long would he sit in that Maryland jockey's room, look up at the screen, turn the TV over to Tampa and watch that signal? Yeah, you're looking out the window in Maryland, and then you're looking up at the 70-degree sunny weather in Florida. Well, it lasted about 2 weeks, and then decided to head down to Tampa. So he with Centino in the mix, that jockey's race is going to be a lot of fun down there at Tampa this year. And again, with Kobiski on the trainer's side, there are some new faces that are going to be a lot of fun to watch too. So Tampa Bay Downs, interesting. Also on the jockey side down there, Austin Solis rode his first winner this past Saturday, I believe. It was just within the last few days. Or it may have been Sunday. It may have been Sunday, but it was just, as I say, within the past few days. 21-year-old Austin Solis, notable because he is the son of jockey Alex Solis. He's been down there as a 10-pound apprentice at Tampa since the beginning of the meet. Has had a couple of close calls, but got his first winner the other day. We'll keep our eyes on him because certainly with the breeding, with Alex Solis as his dad, he is going to be one to watch. He's been down in Florida, I think, working for the past couple of years on becoming a jockey and working with some of the some jockeys and retired jockeys and whatnot, plying his trade and trying to get things going. And now seems to be on his way. Again, first winner within the past few days over at Tampa. Mentioned the cancellations at Parx. There was a little article in the Blood Horse about that. No real explanation. I'd love to hear a little bit more about that. Although it does say some of the cancellations were due to the weather, some were due to the track condition. I'd just love to hear a little bit more about the Parx cancellations. There have been 10 of them. It seems like maybe the track, just with the weather, maybe they lost the track a little bit and now are regrouping. So as I said earlier, we'll keep our fingers crossed that the weather turns around a little bit and gives the folks down at Parx just a few days to kind of get things together and get back racing, because you lose 10 days like that, jockeys, trainers, owners, this is their livelihood, and 10 days is a lot. I said on the Handicappers Report earlier, I don't see how they can make up these days. They're essentially a year-round track, so it's not like you can add a race at the end of the day or add a race day in. You know, when you lose 10 days, 90 races, it's hard to make those up. So certainly the livelihood of some folks. Wouldn't surprise me at all if at some point in that livelihood kind of a thought process, maybe they add some purse money to some races. Maybe they'll do that, bump up the purses for a couple of weeks to kind of make up things. But it's not quite the same thing. And as I say, we'll keep our fingers crossed that things get back to racing form for the racing surface down there at Parx. And as I mentioned before we go to the break, just do want to reiterate this. Calder canceled the La Proveniente, the handicap that was scheduled for December 28th. They just didn't get enough entries. It was surprising, though. It said they had 8 entries in here, but it's a business thing. They're looking at the number of entries and what they'll make handle-wise and comparing that to the purse, and they just said it's a kind of a situation where, a business situation where they decided to cancel the stakes race. The president of the Florida Horsemen's Benevolent and Protective Association expressed some disappointment. The horsemen are disappointed that Calder is canceling this year's running of one of its most established stakes races and doing it this short a time before the race. Again, as I said a little bit earlier, I think this is reflective of that situation down there in Florida, the head-to-head between Calder and Gulfstream. And that has got to shake out sooner rather than later, because I just don't think it's good for anybody. All right, we'll take our first break. When we come back, John DeSilva of RacingWithBruno.com. We'll talk a little bit about Aqueduct. They're racing for today. Also look at the stakes race on Saturday, and maybe we'll get John's thoughts on the Malibu this afternoon at Santa Anita as well. Stay tuned. All of that right after this.
I'm Mark Cassano. Join me Saturday mornings at 10 for Down the Stretch. We'll inform, analyze, and welcome in the biggest names in racing. So join me Saturday mornings at 10 for Down the Stretch, right here on the OTB television network.
Here in upstate New York, no one provides bettors with more wagering options than Capital OTB. Our network of branch and easy bet locations stretches from the mid-Hudson Valley all the way to the Canadian border and west to central New York. So whether you need to place a bet, fund your Capital Bets account, or watch the next big race, all the action is just around the corner. A full list of our branch and easy bet locations can be found online at CapitalOTB.com. Capital OTB, the better and most convenient choice for wagering in upstate New York.
Wagering at CapitalOTBBet.com is as easy as 1, 2, 3. 1. Capital Bet TV, the fastest and easiest online wagering experience where you can monitor 5 different tracks simultaneously. 2. Capital Bet Express. Its straightforward program layout and interactive handicapping information lets you build your wager quickly and efficiently. And 3. Capital Bet Pro, designed especially for the professional horse player. CapitalOTBBet.com. Log on today.
Hey race fans, head down to the all-new Clubhouse Racebook and get in the game. With live horse racing on more than 250 flat-screen TVs, state-of-the-art wagering terminals, fantastic food and drinks, an amazing Vegas-style atmosphere with seating for nearly 900 of your closest friends. Conveniently located at 711 Central Avenue, right off Exit 5 of I-90 in Albany, the Clubhouse Racebook is the better choice.
I'm Anthony Mormino. Join me weekdays at 9 for the Handicappers Report. We'll handicap the top tracks across the country and help you prepare for the day in racing. That's the Handicappers Report, weekdays at 9, only on the OTB TV network.
Welcome back to Racing Across America on this Thursday. We're back after a couple of days out, but as it is Thursday, it means a regular visit from John DeSilva from Racing with Bruno. Good morning, John.
Good morning. How's everybody up there?
Very good. How was your holiday?
It was good. You know, spent a little time relaxing, taking it easy, and actually got to see something I haven't seen in many years, the Christmas show of the Magic Garden.
Oh, nice. There you go. That's what Christmas is all about. Get out, see some shows, eat some turkey, open some gifts, see some family. That's what it's all about. And it's also about snow. Luckily up here over the weekend, we had some warmer weather. I've gotten past the snow thing. I'm perfectly okay. It warmed up. A lot of snow melted. As I came in today, there was some snowflakes out there, though. So for folks who are playing Aqueduct this afternoon, what's your weather look like?
Well, it's a little cool. No, it's cloudy. There is a chance of little snow and or rain later on, but nothing major. I mean, right now by Aqueduct it's 35 degrees, so it's probably going to be rain, I'd say, but not much.
And speaking of weather and rain and whatnot, before the break I talked a little bit about Parx. 10 straight cancellations down there. And as I said, I would love to hear more about that. It just doesn't seem like there's coverage of what's going on, because it seems to me there's more than just weather. It seems like maybe they lost part of the track, something, because certainly the weather at Aqueduct is similar. The weather at Laurel is, they're all in the same kind of geographic area. It's all got to be in the same weather ballpark. But boy, Parx has been up against it. 10 straight cancellations.
It's unbelievable what has happened down there. And this is a track which, unfortunately, they are, I think, the poster child of mismanagement when it comes to a racino. Because here they are, they've done very well in the past, but the management has shown nothing that they care about racing. All the advertising is about the casino. This is a track that historically has been awful. They've had problems with the track many times, especially with bad weather, where they lose the track. It'll be 2-3 weeks before they will come back. You have biases where you have to be like 15 wide at times if you want to be able to win a race. I mean, this is a track, if you remember what happened last year on Cotillion and PA Derby Day, it was so cuppy, so awful that Keir McLaughlin had to complain for them to water the track just to make it fair, and he still got screwed by it. They don't know what they're doing. They're about ready to lose money from the government, because they're using for all these purses and everything else. They're not doing anything to help out the racetrack, and now they can lose the money, and then they're never going to get the racetrack fixed.
Yeah, and that is, this whole Racino concept, that's not just them, but some of these other racetracks are also, once that Racino gets started, that gets all the attention, and certainly that is something the whole industry has to pay attention to. And we've said it, and you've said this similar kind of thing. How long will this last? And we got to make the most of this money while we have it. But as you say, down there, they're not even at this point making the most of the money. So it's a tough situation. There's no question about it. And speaking of tough situations, I want to touch on one more that I talked about a little bit earlier, and that's the situation down in Florida. And I mentioned a little bit earlier the tweet that Rich Eng from the Las Vegas Review-Journal sent out saying, I had a dream the other day that 4 racetracks down in Florida were going head-to-head, but that couldn't be true. I laughed because you look down at that Florida situation, and, Hialeah, Gulfstream, Calder going head-to-head like that. I don't throw Tampa Bay in so much because they're, hours across the state. But still, this situation down in Florida certainly has to shake out sooner rather than later.
It's ridiculous. They have everybody running against each other. Let's throw in Pompano Park at night. You also have the dogs. You have the, highlight. I mean, you have a lot of gambling options down there, which not everybody's going to be able to pay attention to. I mean, you have the political situation of who has the simulcast signal, who sells the simulcast signal. There is no control. Nobody knows what they're doing. You look at Calder. It's a shame what happened down there. I think it's a message they're sending out to the horsemen that they're not just going to go and give the horsemen whatever they want. They played tough hardball in the past. They're going to do it in the future. I do know they have been talking to Gulfstream Park about maybe doing something after July 1st. It's not going to be an easy negotiation, and it wouldn't surprise me. Not only this is an economic situation, but this could be a message being sent to Gulfstream and to the horsemen that, hey, we need something done, but we're not just going to give you money, make it easy for you.
Yes, as I say, something's got to shake out sooner rather than later. And again, it was a couple of weeks ago. It was Claiming Crown weekend, I think. Blood Horse, I believe it was, had an article comparing the handle for that Claiming Crown weekend, which was also a pretty good stakes weekend over at Calder. But Gulfstream slammed Calder handle-wise. I mean, just outdid them by a huge number. And again, that just can't be good for anybody. So we'll keep our eyes on that. All right, let's shift our attention now, get some thoughts on Aqueduct for this afternoon. You've got a few that we can take a look at, beginning in the opener, a maiden claimer, 35,000 tags, and they're going 6 furlongs. Your thought in race number 1?
Well, race number 1, obviously, the horse I'm going to look at is going to be David Jacobs' Coronate. What I'm hoping for here is that the Top Pleasure first-time starter, 8 cents from Mike Rapoli, gets a lot of money early. You have Rajiv Maras scheduled to ride, who is Matt Musicar's second jockey, who obviously has a great relationship with Pledger at Castellano right now. So I'm hoping they take money, and because, Pledger does very well at firsters, but David Jacobs, of new acquisitions, does very well. The horse did tire to be third, first off the private purchase for Jacobson. And I think with a drop from 50 down to 35, he's definitely going for a victory and trying to break the all-time record for most wins by a trainer in a year on the Nara circuit.
Oh, how close is he?
I think he is 4 away, if I remember correctly.
Oh, that makes this interesting then. We're getting down to the wire. Although, being David Jacobson and the number of horses he entered, it seems like he was kind of a shoo-in. But it will be a little bit interesting to keep our eyes on that.
Especially, for Jacobson, who's had a tremendous year. I mean, with Drawing Away, they've had a tremendous year. Unfortunately, it was a little saddened with the passing of Saginaw, who did not win the Vox Populi, by the way. But, hey, they got another good one, Strapping Groom.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. We got it done last weekend. We talked about that one last week a little bit going into that race and did get it done. So kind of a little comeback after the horse showed so much promise in the four-go and then just hadn't put it all together since, but looked good last weekend. All right, race number 2 today at Aqueduct, a B-level claimer, 25 to 30 tags. Again, they're going 6 furlongs.
Very interesting race. A lot of people are going to look at Jacobson here from the outside, but I'm going to go with the drop-down number 2, St. Arthur. This is a horse who's trying reclaimers for the first time. Comes in with nice bullet work in the mud on December 7th. Ariad Ortiz picks up the meat here. The horse did win the stakes at Finger Lakes 2 starts back, going 6 furlongs, wiring the field that day. This is a horse who I think has enough speed. Yes, it's a 3-year-old against the older, but it shouldn't be that much of a difference this time of year. And at 7 to 2, and with Jacobson in the race, it could be good value.
All right, number 2 in race number 2, and let's shift our attention out to race 6 this afternoon, maiden special weight event. This was kind of a fun little race, particularly because of the firster from Chad Brown in here, but it's a maiden special weight event. They're going 6 furlongs.
We talk about race 5, you mean?
Oh, right, yeah, okay, yeah. I skipped over to 6, yeah, race 5, yeah. Race 5 is the B-level claimer, 12,500 tags, fillies and mares, 3-year-olds and up. And in this race, mile and 70, they're going 2 turns.
Yeah, I'm going to go with number 8, Easy Ending. Now, this horse did finish pretty well according to the chart, even though the comment says tired. But now you're going from 6 furlongs to mile and 70, and you're going to Jose Ortiz here. Now, looks like the horse has never, done anything lately going this distance, even though it does have a second 2 starts at the distance in the past. At 5 to 1, I think it's going to be pretty good value. The Nick Eslo horse who won at this level in an off-the-turf race 2 starts back could be interesting. But you do have to remember that was off-the-turf, which means the competition wasn't that great. I think, it would be a little tougher today with Easy Ending, who's 4 for 18, so he doesn't fit under the non-winners of 3 lifetime condition, But I think this is a horse who I would take good value, being the 5-year-old mare for Rudy Rodriguez.
All right, sounds good. And let's shift over now to the weekend. We have the Alex M. Robb on Saturday, $100,000 stake for New York breds. They're going to go a mile and a 16. And John, certainly West Hills Giant is a nice horse. Commandante, a very nice horse from Todd Pletcher. I think there'll be a lot of attention paid, though. Gary Siaka and Bill Parcells, Saratoga Snacks, after having tried Open Company last time in the Cigar Mile and just never being into that race because of the poor start, moves back into State Bred Company. So I think Saratoga Snacks will take a lot of attention on Saturday.
And this is the defending champion of the race, having to wire the field last year when Saginaw was trying to win the title for most races won by a horse last year. I mean, this horse is just going so good right now. It has a nice bullet work on the 22nd, going 48-1. Jose Ortiz picks up the mount here, and to me, this horse is just maybe the best state bred here. The one that's going to be very interesting, though, is going to be Commandante. This is a horse who's won 2 straight for Todd Pletcher. Cornelio Velasquez has the mount, but this is a horse, it's a 3-year-old, has never tried 2 turns, bred to go 2 turns, has a very nice record this year, but you just have to wonder what type of running style this horse will do. Will Cornelio try to push a little bit on the front end with this horse? Will he try to take back? I mean, if he takes back, he's going to hope that somebody else could put a little pressure on Saratoga Snacks, because if you look at the race on paper, there isn't much speed. I mean, they might hope that Bake Shop might try to steal on the front end, but who knows if Angel Royal would try to do that.
Yeah, and you mentioned Cornelio, and there was a nice article in the Racing Forum just recently, just within the past day or so, about Cornelio and the fact that earlier this year he was looking about maybe making the move to Florida, and then Ramon Dominguez said, hey, take a look at my agent, teamed up with Ramon's agent, and now Cornelio sticks in New York, and certainly I think he's going to be very, very interesting to watch at the Intertrack meet.
Cornelio is a consummate professional. Some people at times do question the way he rides, but day in, day out, he's very consistent. The only thing that surprised me, Cornelio, is it seems like every time he wins the jockey title, he gets dumped by his agent. Hopefully that won't happen anymore.
Yeah, those kind of situations are always kind of baffling, but it does happen in the game. John, I want to turn our attention now to another race from this afternoon, but we're going to go over to the other coast. Santa Anita opening day today. 3 nice stakes races on the card, but the highlight, of course, is going to be the Grade 1 Malibu. I'd love to hear what you think about this because a 12-horse field, and I think it is a very competitive field, as indicated by John White's morning line where he made Flashback the 7-2 morning line favorite. So that's a lukewarm morning line favorite. But boy, this is a really fun group. Back in with only a couple of starts for Chad Brown. Be interesting to see what he does. I mean, it really stepping up here after only a couple of career starts and then moving into the Grade 1 company. Central Banker firing the big buyer figure last time down in Fairgrounds. Z-Watt. Flashback, as mentioned before. What are your thoughts on this afternoon's Malibu?
It's a tremendous race. You can go in so many different directions. I mean, Chad Brown is taking a shot here, but this is the type of race where a horse like that could definitely get the job done, so I definitely wouldn't ignore him. He wouldn't be my top choice here. I mean, I think Flashback is going to be my top choice. This is a horse who had been a little unlucky at times, broke slowly last time out, finished pretty well, finishing second to Z-Watt in Damascus on the undercard of the Breeders' Cup. You get Joel Rosario picking up the mount now, and hey, you can never go wrong with Rosario, that's for sure. But an interesting long shot you probably should pay attention to would be number 8, Holy Loot. Now, this is a horse who had a wide trip in the Breeders' Cup Dirt Mile, but then just tired, was chasing Golden Sense and really couldn't do anything there. Prior to that, the horse was third in the Indiana Derby after a troubled trip. But cutting back to 7 furlongs, this horse looked very impressive. Braden Spaden going 6.5 at Del Mar has been working well for this spot for Jim Cassidy. And at 12-1, you get Mike Smith. I think Holy Loot is definitely a long shot you want to pay attention to.
Yeah, I agree completely. John, before we let you go, speaking of Southern California, any thoughts on the closing of Hollywood? Did you ever make a visit out to Hollywood Park?
No, unfortunately, never had the honor of going to Hollywood. It was a shame about what has happened to Hollywood. I heard your comments earlier about what Jay Hovde had to say, and it's a tough call because when you have a track that's closing, if you order too much stuff and you don't get rid of it, what do you do with it? I mean, it's like it's damned if you do, damned if you don't. It's a no-win situation, and they probably thought in their eyes better to sell out and have things get done too early than get stuck with it and not know what to do with it afterwards.
Yeah, I agree, except that, the concessioners, I would imagine, could do something. Hey, if you got extra food, you donate to a soup kitchen if you have to. But
for the backstretch workers, that would be the perfect thing to do.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, that's a great idea. And then, like I say, the programs, just it seems like you would have the foresight to realize, hey, they'd be souvenirs. And even if you don't sell them then, you could get rid of them yourself. It seems like at the auction they're going to have next month for a lot of the equipment and things, it seems like they could have, it was kind of sad that it went out like that. As I say, I was kind of disappointed that closing weekend, a couple of state-bred stakes races. I was surprised there wasn't a little more something on the cards. But then to read the Hovde column, that even the folks who turned up there kind of didn't have the experience they should have. It was a little bit disappointing, but just overall, sad to lose an iconic racetrack like that.
Definitely is. And you look at what happened at Hollywood Park, it could happen anywhere.
Yeah.
I mean, look at all the rumors about Aqueduct. What happens if one day that does happen? I mean, here's Aqueduct that has a great history, but now that you have Genting running the building, let's say something was to close down, even though NARA may want to, because of Genting, they may not even be allowed to do certain things to celebrate its history if that was to ever happen.
Yeah, great point. Yeah, and again, that is an absolute truth. If it happens to Hollywood, it can happen anywhere. So we'll have to stay vigilant and see what we can do. All right, John. Certainly appreciate the visit as always. Good luck this afternoon at Aqueduct on the weekend as well with the stakes action, and we'll talk to you next week.
Take care. Good luck, everyone.
Thanks a lot. John De Silva from RacingWithBruno.com. You can get his selections. He looks at New York. He looks at Fairgrounds. Go on over to RacingWithBruno.com. We'll take our next break. When we come back, Dave Rodman from Laurel. Stay tuned.
The future of online betting is here, and only at the all-new CapitalOTBBet.com. CapitalOTBBet.com delivers a state-of-the-art wagering experience found nowhere else in horse racing. CapitalOTBBet.com. Log on today.
Fascinated by the world of horse racing? Interested in honing your handicapping skills? Class is in session. Night school, Monday nights. Easy to access online. It's free, interactive, and informative for the casual and serious race fan. Horse Player Now Buzz. Live horses to watch emailed to you daily. Our eyes, your prize. Night School in the Buzz. Visit horseplayernow.com for details.
Each morning on the OTB TV network, you get the very best in horse racing programming. Weekdays begin with the Handicappers Report, where professional handicappers share their selections and analysis of the day's racing. Followed by Racing Across America, a daily conversation with racing personalities from around the country. Saturdays include Down the Stretch, where Mark Casano speaks with the biggest names in racing. And Sunday mornings, it's Loose on the Lead, where Steve Bick and I offer news and a unique lineup of weekly guests. All here on the OTB TV network.
Funding your Capital OTB Bet account is as easy as 1, 2, 3. 1. Easy Money. Clearly the fastest and easiest method of depositing funds into your account. Make deposits or withdrawals in just minutes. 2. Green Dot Money Pack. Gives you instant access to your funds. Green Dot Money Packs are available at thousands of retailers nationwide. And 3. MasterCard Visa. Simply click on the link from the funding page, enter your account information, and fund your account. CapitalOTBBet.com. Log on today. Missed one of our TV shows? No worries. Now you can catch all your favorite programs online. Simply log on to CapitalOTB.com and click on the YouTube link at the bottom of the homepage. And look for our new podcast coming soon. CapitalOTB.com. Log on today.
Welcome back to Racing Across America. Happy to be joined now, as we are every Thursday, by Dave Rodman from Laurel Park. Good morning, Dave.
Hey, good morning, Seth. Hope everybody had a happy holiday.
Same to you. How was it?
Yeah, it was fine, you know. Just caught up on a little food, and a little time with some friends and family, and most of all, started a handicap Saturdays card, too.
Yeah, that's what it's all about. We're back racing action now, though, kicking back in on Thursday, as you say. In a few moments, we're also going to take a look out at Saturday. A couple nice stakes races down there at Laurel. We'll take a look at today's action first, though, but just alert people, you gave me a little heads up during the break. What's the weather look like down there?
Well, this morning, I thought they would completely miss again. Woke up and the really fat snowflakes started to fall. And I looked at the radar, and it was just like a squall snow shower line coming through the area. But it blanketed nice coating for a while, but it's warmed up, I believe, about freezing now, so it's pretty much all gone.
Yeah, the crazy weather last week. I saw Gabby Gaudette sent out on a Twitter feed a shot of the bare infield and saying first day of winter, a little more like the first day of spring.
Yeah, it almost felt like we wanted to run on the turf. Actually, it looks pretty good. Well, after that warm weather Sunday, we had 70-something degrees.
Yeah, crazy.
There's actually still some green out there, so that might do it some good, nice and lush for the spring here, the latter part of the meet, and also that Pimlico should help it too. We had a pretty good rain that ought to help things out, but it's partly cloudy right now, really kind of chilly, typical winter day, but nice.
All right, let's get to the action for this afternoon. Race number 4 today at Laurel is, if I can find it here. Yeah, there we go. Hey, we're down 6,250 claiming tags. Fillies and mares, 3-year-olds and up. They're going to go 3/4 of a mile. Your thoughts in race number 4?
Well, I want to take a little bit of a shot here on a first-time Juan Vasquez runner who actually has some back credentials to kind of annihilate this field. Her name is Tiki Taki, from that far outside gate. He's putting, as we spoke of, apprentice Carlos Gutierrez, who got his first win here in the States, a 37-year-old apprentice. But Vasquez is sticking to him, and he's put him on a few live horses here. And I think she could be live from the outside, kind of ignoring the last few numbers that called her. If you go back to some of her races, maybe that don't even appear on form, she was a much better mare at one time. And this is the kind of horse that kind of wake up, a typical first-time Juan Vasquez horse who could wake up and show some back class and back form. And people will wonder, where did that race come from? Her buyer figures didn't look that good. And a lot of attention is going to go to Tony Gale off a big, solid number there. first off the claim for Hugh McMahon at Penn. I went back and looked at that race, and yeah, she ran big. She was wide in the turn, but the power in the race was the winner, Good Song, who was an absolute runaway winner. And I just thought Tony Gale was kind of even paced. So maybe that number was a little bit enhanced there due to the winner of the race. But she was a little wide in the turn. I mean, you'd have to use her, but we'll go with Tiki Taki and see if we can get her home today.
And again, we'll remind people, if they weren't watching last week, we talked about the jockey a little bit last week. 37-year-old, 10-pound apprentice, got his first win, about a week and a half, 2 weeks or so ago. But just have to remind people that kind of an oddity, certainly.
Yeah, right. Adding to the large number of apprentice riders that we have here in Maryland already in the jockey colony. But, it helps when you're on good horses and good barns, and certainly that barn, a high-percentage barn, can help him out a bit. And he's got to learn to finish a little stronger, I thought. He ran third on a horse the other day here for the same connections, and, I don't know, arguably could have won the race, but particularly this way, he was outfinished.
And I pulled up the Equibase stats, the jockey stats for Laurel just this morning. 2 apprentices on top. Carrasco and Trevor McCarthy are 1-2 in the jockey standings.
Yeah, it's been a hot year for apprentices here in Maryland, and it's typical hotbed for apprentices. But Carrasco, I think almost looks certain maybe to get that Eclipse Award. With the big year he's having here, he's vying for that Eclipse Award as North America's leading apprentice rider.
Yeah, you would think, when you can top the standings at a track the level of Laurel, that certainly is a feather in your cap. So he's certainly
and money earned too.
Yeah.
He's got the bankroll there. His horses. So I would think that I'd make him the favorite right now, but you never know how the voters are going to go.
Yeah, is for Emmanuel Esquivel, who led the standings out in Chicago earlier this year. He might have hurt himself. I think he made a great career move coming to New York, and he's doing okay. But then he got a little bit lost in the shuffle. And again, Carrasco being down there in Maryland, very good circuit to be on the top. And at the end of the year, when people are ready to vote, he certainly is going to be up there in the competition, no question about it. All right, let's.
We've got Chelsea Kaiser here. She has just finessed some horses, gotten unbelievable run out of horses that no one else has gotten a run out of before. She's kind of overlooked. So if you're wagering and maybe you've never really played Laurel before, she might want to be one you want to look at.
Yeah, and as you say, it is a hotbed and has been for years for apprentices. All right, the 6th race today down at Laurel, maiden special weight event. These are 2-year-olds. They're going 6 furlongs.
The 6th. This is an interesting race because a first-time starter in here who might be something, might be nothing. He's by Discreet Cat, Unbridled Song Mare, Loudcat, a half brother to Catchy Tune, who was 3 for 12 lifetime. All of the wins for that runner were on the turf. This is the dirt debut horse, but interestingly enough, great work at Fair Hill December the 7th, best of 16. And if you just look at the horses on the work tab that day, one of them was Or Pass, who worked about the same time as this 2-year-old did here from the Tony Duckgrove barn. And Or Pass, of course, a Mike Trombetta horse that we talked about on the show last year. They had high hopes for. He came back recently at Laurel and ran real solid here. I'm kind of looking for the race right now. I know it was the past week or so here at Laurel, 2nd or 3rd. Against a real salty field, and ran a lot better than I think a lot of people thought he would on the comeback race.
Yeah, and you would think on the breeding, this horse will be live first time out too. As you say, Discreet Cat out of an Unbridled Song Mare, but also sold earlier this year at a 2-year-old in training sale for just about $250,000. So it seems like things are lining up for this horse to be legit.
Yeah, another horse that he worked against that day, not against, but on similar time, was Harry the Navigator, who's also running today in the 7th race, and he's kind of a juicy price in the morning line. So maybe that's an indication you might want to use that horse in the 7th race. It's Harry the Navigator. Or Pass, Harry the Navigator. They all went around that 101 range, just looking at the raw time at Fair Hill on the synthetic track there. But this horse is certainly bred to pop first out here by Discreet Cat. but he's also half to a horse that was a turf runner too.
All
Loud
right.
Cat, yeah.
All right, so we'll get also a little barometer on the number one in the seventh race as well. Eighth race today, an optional claiming event, 40 tags, non-winners of one other than the condition. They're going to go 6 furlongs. Your thoughts in race 8?
Well, this is an interesting race because we have a horse who ran an 83 Beyer figure on debut at Penn National on a good track, 4th and long. And if that looks dazzling for a debut 2-year-old, there was another horse that ran earlier, I believe it must have been later in the card that evening. It actually went, because that was the second race. I forgot his name, but it was actually more impressive than that. I do know he's very quick early, and he did it well in hand for the half mile. The first half mile of the race, and through the stretch, he was put to some pressure. So he's very quick out of the gate, and by Grand Slam, you would expect him to have some speed. But there's some other speed in this race in 2-year-olds with more experience, but he looks like the real deal here, number 3, 4th and long. Maybe you want to take a little shot here on a closer if the speed kind of, fades off the scene. Pax Orbis, who arguably should have won his last race and beat Fratman. He had a little trouble. Well, the 7, Johnny Jump Up, who looks to be kind of default closer if the speed should fall apart here. Trainer Flint Stites. Not as high a percentage here at Laurel as out of town, but he's done some good work in the past with a mare that you might remember here called All Giving, I believe, a multiple stakes winner over this track years ago. And he looks like he could be waiting in the wings to pick up some pieces, but 4th and long, a very interesting, promising runner who did his first half mile in hand at Penn National there. And that is a huge number for that track for a 2-year-old debut runner.
And an interesting string of works after that race. Puts in a 47 and change, 4 furlongs, then goes a mile in 143 and change, and then comes back with a bullet 59 and 1 following. So I like that series of works. It just kind of seems to indicate some kind of intent there as well. So I find that horse interesting also. All right, Dave, let's shift out again. Mentioned it earlier, a couple of nice stakes races on the Saturday card. First up will be race number 7 on Saturday, the Willa on the Move for Fillies and Mares 3-year-olds, and up going 3/4 of a mile. On the numbers, on the Beyer figures, it looks like 5-Star Mama with Carrasco on board has a little bit of an edge on this field. 3-race win streak coming in, but she's ordained, has Beyer figures that are kind of similar. Your thoughts on the Willa on the Move?
I wish I could figure this race out, and I think as we get closer to Saturday, and maybe I don't really have the early scratches for Saturday yet. I guess they're all pretty much going to be in here. It is a solid race top to bottom with 5-Star Mama. She's ordained. They all have kind of similar running styles. They're very quick. They can handle a sustained quick pace up front. I mean, I guess you would have to give the edge to 5-Star Mama. The interesting horse to me is Strike the Moon, though she maybe is not fast on her Beyer figures as some of the others. She's got a good stalking style here from the Trombetta barn. And the 5-Star Mama and She's Ordained get involved, she could be waiting in the wings here for a pop at a price. And speaking of pop, there's a mare, or filly rather, called Popalicious. And if you can tell me where that last race came from, I would like to know. She beat Lady Sibelia, who granted had a little trouble in that race off a smashing win in the Safely Kept. She, at the start, was bumped and then squeezed back. But Popalicious just ran lights out. And if she runs that first half mile like she did last time out, that she's going to be in the mix too. There's plenty of speed in here. Adding Classy Coco to the mix too could set up for a closer and maybe someone you might not expect.
Yep. Now that you mention Popalicious off of that last race is kind of interesting. I'll be interested to see what the betting public does with that one. All right, let's look at
Gabby got to add our handicapper here. That's one of her favorite fillies. Off of a real strong turf race. And I always thought, well, she was just a better turf horse, But she improved, I don't know, how many lengths? 15 lengths?
Yeah.
In that last win here. Can she repeat that is the question and step up? But, yeah, I would say 5-Star Mom is the horse to beat.
Yeah, coming down from race most recently at Penn National, but New York-based horse, so kind of interesting for Jenna Antonucci. 8th race on Saturday. This is a fun little race, as 2-year-old races at this time of year always are. Maryland Juvenile Championship. It's state breds, $100,000, 7 furlongs. Certainly, it looks like the horse that'll take the action is going to be Joint Custody, coming out of the $100,000 Marylander, also at 7 furlongs, where he turned the tables on Jesse the Marine. What are your thoughts on the Juvenile Championship?
Well, another interesting race, pace-wise. I think the horse that has run the strongest in each of his starts is It's a Bang on the far outside for trainer Donald Barr. He's a half-brother to Mass Destruction, who did quite a bit of damage here in the sprint ranks. He was recently claimed, by the way, last week into Damon Dilladovico's barn, Mass Destruction. So this guy debuts at almost 30-1. People kind of dismiss that as maybe a fluke. If you're handicapping, you say, well, Donald Barr hardly ever wins first time out. That must have been something. But he won the Maryland Million Nursery, beating Joint Custody and Franz Buckaroo on a fast track, proving that he's a real deal. And last time out in the Lewis, behind Jesse the Marine, he was willing the entire trip. Had to alter course, furlong and a half left to go. Kept on strongly to Jesse the Marine, Pure Sensation, who's very quick. That beat out the other day in New York, as you know. But this guy looks like 7 furlongs will be no problem for him. He's been consistent, and consistent in all of his 3 races.
Yeah, and now that you mention it, I remember the week after the Lewis, we took a look at that one and commented on It's a Bang and the nice closing effort that one did to run 3rd in there. So, yeah, worth taking a look.
You remember in that race, we were kind of talking about long shots. Jesse the Marine was one of them, and he won. And the other horse that we talked about as a long shot was Ready for Action, who's also in again on Saturday here against It's a Bang. Now, he lost all chance into the far turn, got shuffled back, and never could recover. So maybe you want to take another shot with him at a price in the Juvenile Championship. Joint Custody is very quick, but I thought he got the perfect ride last time out in the Marylander by Wesley Ho, who got him out there with good, quick early fractions, but relaxed quarter, then kind of slowed it down for that second quarter and had enough to just skip along in the muddy track and hold off closers who didn't get the setup that day. He's a nice horse, but this is going to be an interesting test for him to see if he can rate this time or maybe handle a bit more pressure up front.
Yeah, Ready for Action. The last couple of races certainly will darken the form and give the odds. And as you mentioned, that horse is a little bit interesting. Dave, I got to ask you, if you've taken a look out at California for this afternoon. I bring it up because
No.
the Malibu, the Grade 1 Malibu, who's back? Air of Storm is back, and I wonder if you're going to be paying attention.
Well, you know what? I did see that, and I don't have the form in front of me. I did like a horse in there, but I can't remember who it is, so I guess it's going to be a mystery.
So next week you'll be a winner no matter what happens.
I believe it's a Bondi horse. Is it a Bondi
Jeff
horse?
Bondi, I'm taking a look. Bondi.
Maybe I'm.
Oh,
seeing
sure,
things.
Distinctive Passion? Coming out of the
Yeah.
Santa Anita Sprint Championship, ran 3rd that day, had a string
Right.
of wins before that. That's the
I
Jeff
kinda
Bondi
liked
horse.
him.
Yeah.
I kind of liked him a little bit. I left my California form downstairs.
So you're
yeah.
off Air of Storm. Is it like, well, I missed the wedding. I'm not going. I missed the $70. I'm not gonna.
No way I'm chasing that one.
That was a great call, though. I brought it up earlier this week when we talked about the
haven't
Malibu.
had a winner since, you remember, but other than that.
Well, when there's $70, you can have probably once every few months, and you're still going to be ahead of the game. That was a very good call.
No, I'm getting ready to go look at. I haven't had to look at California yet. I'm going to take a look. I did look at that stake a little bit, but only because I was watching those 2 horses. But go downstairs to look at it now.
Let me ask you this. We only got a few seconds left, but speaking of California, what were your thoughts on the closing of Hollywood? Did you ever visit Hollywood?
I did not. I've never been to Hollywood. I've been to Santa Anita. Back since it's been a while there. I've been to Del Mar more times than I can think of, and than I can count. But I never did visit the Hollywood. I kind of regret that. It was very, very, very sad. I mean, you think about history and tradition, and with the consolidation of the industry and the things that we've gone through here in Maryland with slots, no slots, maybe slots. The slots aren't here, but they're at a casino. But we've gone through some ups and downs, and I certainly feel for the employees there that it's just what do you do? I keep thinking, what if you and I all of a sudden had to do something else tomorrow, what would it be?
Yeah. Yeah, that's a great point, and that's one of the things that maybe has gone under the radar a little bit. As racing fans, we're sad to see the iconic facility go away, but you're right. There are all kinds of employees there now who are going to be out there looking for a job, and that's one of the unfortunate parts of it all, too. But
yeah, I mean, horses, I think the horses and the horsemen will tend to gravitate and go wherever they can fit it into their schedule. California's kind of a unique situation, obviously, a little bit, removed from East Coast racing. So it'll be interesting to see how that all pans out and how this extended Santa Anita session will go, too.
yeah, I've said that for a while now. It is going to be very interesting.
I mean, there's so many good people working in the industry. I mean, that it's just very sad to see that happen. That was just kind of melancholy experience,
Yeah, as has already been said on the show this morning, if it can happen to Hollywood, it can happen anywhere. So we have to be vigilant as racing fans. Dave, we appreciate the visit. Certainly, good luck this afternoon. And again, good luck on the stakes action this weekend as well. Saturday, a couple of nice stakes down there at Laurel. We'll talk to you next week.
Okay, Seth. Take care.
Thanks a lot. Dave Rodman from Laurel Park. A little earlier, John De Silva from RacingWithBruno.com. All of that brings us to the end of this edition of Racing Across America. Again, thanks for joining us after a couple of days off here on the network. Hope everybody had a Merry Christmas and a Happy Holiday. Racing is underway again. Good action here on the network this afternoon. And don't forget, opening day at Santa Anita with great stakes action there as well. Racing Across America here every Monday through Friday from 10 to 11 a.m. A little earlier on the programming is the Handicappers Report. This morning it was Jeff Carl and I. Hopefully we gave you some good ideas. Cash some tickets this afternoon. We'll see you again tomorrow morning.
You're watching OTB TV, a service of Capital Off Track Betting.